It's just normal atmospheric pressure. We just do it in for fun. Of course, it's all kind of fun. So what I just sent you was an invitation to a site that we use sometimes. Craig Zucker at Clayton introduced me to it, and this is a totally public pad that you can all write on at the same time. And so if you open that pad, accept that invitation, and click on the pad, I thought it might, instead of going around a circle and introduce ourselves, I thought it might be nice to say, write down your name, what your school is, and where you, and what you teach. I guess that's enough. So your name and your school and what you teach. And then you can see how this works.
Okay, Mike, I gave you the wrong email address.
Except we're sitting on top of each other. This is great, except is there some protocol for who gets
I think it'd be better than
I claim line 7.
everybody type it together. Went to a jumbled letter.
Gene, can I get on the internet on that machine on the board real quick?
I don't think the board's accurate, Mike.
I just need to type here and project there. No. It's on your machine. Project question? I forgot to bring my projector.
We can switch what this is displaying.
That's all right. I just don't, you can just close up when I'm
Oh, wow, that's good.
So how's life Clayton treating you?
Hey, Mike, when you have a chance, I gave you the wrong email address.
When is Teams?
I thought you said more.
I think my start connection.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Everybody find the invitation?
Ever and
Southwest does something.
Did you say yes? Making things capital?
There needs to be some way to get the house all.
well, you know, it's like on a Google Doc. If you're in a cell or on a row, it locks it so no one else can do it. You would think that they'd be able to figure that out. But right.
I mean, I'm all configured, so I don't.
Just email or yours.
No, my house. So you gave me the school email?
Open invitation to come.
Oh, I'm there.
What's the point of sharing this pass?
That's if you can share with other people.
Using my machine.
So it's automatically sharing now.
If you want to add somebody, you could.
Sign in.
Like send an email invitation.
No, I
If you send an email invitation to somebody else, like right now, you said that,
went to Gmail and it won't go.
my mind just went Trinity. Frank, it's at you. So invite him. You know his email address? Just put in, do share this pad and throw it to him. Okay, did everybody figure that out? It's, except for Val. The point of this little thing is a totally public pad, and I thought I'd show you how I use it sometime in class. I thought introducing ourselves that way, using this would be a nice way to expose you to it. And
If we could see people's faces, Michael, that'd be nice.
I think you might be able to insert pictures. I'm not an expert. I used to try to get into it, and then I'd go on to the next thing. I'm a little ADD like that. So you can probably do more than I do with it.
So I'm just talking about, you know, like you see all these people's names on here. And
Yeah.
some of the people we haven't seen before, so if they
Okay.
could say who they are once they type it in.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a good point. We'll do that. Say wearing a plaid shirt. No.
I'm an old folk.
All right. So maybe we'll say our name real quick. All right. So we'll start with Kathy. This is Kathy over here.
Hi, but I.
You're not there yet. This is Art.
Hi.
All right. And Val from Burroughs, formerly Central.
Okay, now back to the refresh. Well, I'm C degree for Parkway Central.
For now.
Still fighting.
And Cornell. And Gary's over there from
He's trying to find himself.
I'm trying to find out where my cursor is.
I have some in class.
Rex from Clayton.
Rex in,
Jeff from a free safety, but from Clayton.
and Lee.
Lee from Parker Central.
Jeff from Parker North.
Gene from DeSmet Jesuit.
Dane from Althoff Catholic. Igor from the city. I have two schools.
Bob from Rockwood Summit.
Kyle Stoneball from Southwestern Illinois College.
Nathan from Clayton. David from Webster.
Abraham from Mesquite. Andrew from Westminster Christian.
Gene from Clayton.
Hal from Huntsville.
And Kathy from school.
So David, thank you for hosting us. By the way.
Thank you for coming.
And, great facility, we've all noticed. So here's how I use that sometimes in class. So this is sometimes I do like an online discussion for reviewing for a test or something. So this is a test review forum. So this is, and once it's up there, you can leave it posted. These are just questions the kids had. So we're talking, this is our bonding test, and so before that test, on say Sunday night or Tuesday night or whatever the night is, you have a discussion with kids. You can get about 10 kids on there. What I found was that when we start working with it, kids start answering each other's questions. I had one kid, David Rifle, who really enjoyed teaching other kids. And so he was answering questions as I was answering questions, and we had these just like you guys just experienced with all those cursors on there at the same time. You have all these things popping up at you, and you can address kids' questions. And then, of course, you get this little thing. Go, good night, tell Mom I'll be up in a few minutes. That comes on the side. Mom, why don't you come upstairs? So I remind them it's totally public. Chemistry is sort of the best. One could say they're bonded. All right. Well, anyway, did you get that? Bonded. All right. All right. So anyway, that's an example of how I've used it. It turns into a fairly long discussion, and kids play with it. It's kind of fun. So it's called Meeting Words, totally public. And that's our first little short example. And then that's Muhammad just walked in. Say hi, Muhammad.
Hello, everybody. Come on.
And so, Gene, that was all I needed to say. So you're back. I'll shut this down. You'll be back out. All right. Nathan and Rex have a thing they wanted to show us, which is exciting.
And this does relate to technology because we sort of found out about this through an email from Rich Neiman, who I'm sure most of you know. This is what happens when you retire, I think. You sit around and surf the net and find cool stuff and send it to your friends.
Surf YouTube.
Yes, and and Rex and I both happen to be doing some things with pressure at the time, so we just looked at the pictures on the internet, and which is, I guess, somebody, a professor from BYU and another from Purdue, those two guys.
The video that both of us saw were from a professor at BYU who did this with his classes, but then there's some stuff at BYU where they really go into a pretty detailed analysis of the device and how it works.
I'm going to talk over this. Okay. Okay, so just briefly, in terms of the construction, this is real cheap. It's 1.5 inch PVC pipe with 2 connectors at either end, and then taking a little piece of...
Stop for just a second. At any time, this thing could blow.
Yeah, don't stand down there anymore.
And it's going to be really loud when it goes, so just don't, there won't be any shots fired, but...
Good call. Yeah, I actually did have one go off prematurely once in class, but everybody was, you know, there's some fault with the Mylar. But so you take a little balloon Mylar, just real thin stuff, and then you take your connectors, put it over the end, make a snug seal on either side. The Mylar's strong enough so when the tube is evacuated, it doesn't burst, although if you do poke a hole in it, then it just immediately shreds and lets the air in. So we put a ping pong ball down at this end, and so when the air rushes in, basically it just shoves the ping pong ball down to the other end. And Rex and I played with this with some students after school today. And did you want to show your video?
I don't shoot it.
Shoot it once and then show. Okay. So the key is have an excellent vacuum, let most of the molecules diffuse out of there, and there's not really much holding it back, and it accelerates. What much of that did you do with your kids?
Well, we're doing castle electricity with my freshman right now, and in castle you develop an analogy to electric potential using pressure model, and so we decided that these kids who had really never had any formal experience with air pressure, we should teach them a little bit about air pressure, and what better way than to see how great the pressure is that 1 atmosphere provides. And so I basically gave my students the parameters of this thing, the diameter of the golf ball, the length of the tube, told them what 1 atmosphere was in pounds per square inch. So there's a little unit conversion exercise in here as well. And then their job was, given those parameters, what else did I tell them? The mass of the ping pong ball. They had to calculate the theoretical muzzle velocity of this thing, with the assumption that the ping pong ball was flat, and that the pressure in here was in fact 0, and the pressure over there was 14.7 pounds per square inch.
But pretty close to no air resistance, which is what you make the assumption all the time, but hey, actually, probably pretty close.
So that calculation actually gives you about 450 meters per second. So 1 1/3 times the speed of sound, something like that. We took a video of it, which actually is on here.
Well,
where we got a value.
Yeah, I started thinking about
all this back.
for chemistry, it's just, you know, the kinetic molecular theory, trying to get kids to figure out that, yeah, there's a lot of movement here and with the molecules, which they don't get because you don't usually sense it, obviously. So I didn't have my students really do anything with it. I just set it up and was like, yeah, and just to get them to think about the reason that the ball shoots down here is because the molecules just shove it down to the end. You want to do it?
You can do it. So you want to cover your ears when he gets ready to do this, because as I said, it is pretty loud.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Sweet.
And it dented this one.
That's a ping pong ball or a golf?
Ping pong
No,
ball.
ping pong.
What are the ping pong balls?
The ping pong ball came back to me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, the ping pong ricocheted back, and you know, you get 1 shot per ping pong ball. Yes, it does. It holds.
Sometimes they just shatter into a whole lot of pieces.
Would you do to initiate it again?
I just poked it with a pair of scissors to.
How long does the pump take to evacuate that?
We
It'll
let it go
go
a couple
pretty
of
well
minutes.
with a couple of minutes. 5 minutes, we think maybe works better. We haven't checked it out in enough detail to know for sure. I have one of those high-speed Casio cameras, so we did the high-speed video of this. So there's the muzzle of it. That's a meter stick. Those are 10-meter increments. And there's a kid who's doing a countdown up here. That's 5. This is like at 1/7 speed right now. So let's let it go from there.
1.
Okay, so if we go back a few frames.
Rex, do you have any special lights on that?
No, it's just the room lights.
Fluorescent?
You see
flickering?
the-
Wow.
Pieces of mylar flying
Yeah,
out.
just the normal. So there's, actually the way this works is the shutter's open the whole time. So that, the length of that streak you see is how far the ball went in 1 frame. So 1 frame is a 210th of a second. So you can see that it just, and that turns out to be about 110 meters per second, about 1/3 of the speed of sound is what we're actually getting as opposed to 1 1/3 times the speed of sound. But it's pretty impressive, a lot of fun.
And some modifications that were done with some of the college folks is they go ahead and evacuate this, they put this on here, and then they also attach a larger contraption here, just PVC, that's hooked up to another pump that pressurizes. So you evacuate the tube first, then you just start pressurizing your larger container behind it, and then it just, instead of poking it, the pressure gets big enough that it then ruptures and fires the ball through at a considerably higher velocity. I think the guy estimated 1.2 or something like that.
Higher than the speed of sound actually, and then he put a ping pong paddle in front of it and blew a hole through the ping pong paddle.
Wow.
But didn't the guy just stand in front of it too?
The guy at BYU stood in front of it with an apron that had a target on there, and it left a huge welt, and I would never even think about doing that. Blasting holes through soda cans is fun.
Yeah.
Question, any practical application for these?
Well, if you evacuate it, you can move with it. I mean, you just evacuate the whole thing, and then you got a little shoulder launch ping pong ball fire. No.
It was a fun way to introduce
Okay.
pressure, and that's
It's
really
a
what I
variation on the
use.
crush the can experiment.
Yeah.
There's, back in 2001, there was a book that was actually recommended in my house pick blog called Vacuum Bazookas, Electric Rainbow Jelly, and 27 Other Projects. It was written by a guy named Neil Downey. I think it's still in print. I think you can still get a copy, probably not 50 copies, but probably one or two. And it really it's a sequel. He had a previous book. So if you look up under Neil Downey in DOWNIE in Amazon, you can find the other book, which I think is even better. There's also a version of this idea that was written up in Journal of Chemical Education, where you pressurize a 2-liter bottle and use that to blast wine corks. That also works really well. It's not as good as this for physics because it's not evacuated, but it gives you the idea about what the pressure can do for you.
All right, next on our agenda.
By the way, before you, just in case, because somebody asked about this, the way we put that Mylar on there, this is just a regular PVC coupler, so we just cut a square, hold it tight, and then seal it on there. Some of them show using different kinds of packing tape and stuff like this, but this is kind of clean and pretty easy to.
About the other.
And it's really quick, actually, and all the PVC and the valve, all that kind of stuff was probably about $20.
So you got 1.25 inch?
1.5.
Half inch?
Yeah, 1.5 fits this, so what you do is you get just one piece, you need a T, and then this is actually 2 pieces. This one just fits over, so you take a little piece off the end that you can put in here to glue these 2 pieces together. Then you have this is threaded at the top, so you got this whole thing with the square nut or whatever on the top that just screws down into that. And so what we did is just drill a hole through the top of that. It was just a little bit smaller than the threads on the brass nipple, or whatever you call this. And then, so basically just kind of forced it in there. What I did is I put a wrench and a clamp so the wrench was sticking out. Then I put the wrench on here, and then I was able to just, torque that thing in there. And it kind of self-threads through there. And then we just put some silicone tube or something like that.
Well, we had a little leak, and I added some goop to it.
And
which
some
sealed
goop.
the leak.
Okay, and then you just put a little piece on the end. I don't know, if in terms of, obviously when the pressure is allowed in, some rushes up in here too. So for this tube that we put in here, it's not exactly, a smooth fit. So I just dremeled out the end of it so that it was kind of tapered. So it kind of is a small funnel, but just with a sharp edge on there. I don't know how fast it's going by the time it gets to here, but I was afraid that it might damage the ball, so we dremeled that out.
One more thing about the ping pong balls. In 2000, for the Olympics, they changed the size of ping pong balls from what had always been 38 millimeter diameter to 40 millimeter diameter for regulation ping pong balls. And so if you get a 3-star competition grade ping pong ball, that actually fits closer to the inside diameter of the 1.5 inch PVC than the 30. We shot some 38 millimeter ones and did fine, but the guy on the internet recommends the 40.
And it's easier to calculate.
It is, nice number.
Just a 10-foot piece of pipe.
Yeah, we,
And
the other
then
thing,
we cut off, we ended
Cut
up with
off
about
a little bit.
Yeah, we ended up with probably a meter that we just.
the guy
that we
at
had,
Purdue says that he's got a clear one, and he's done some really heavy-duty analysis of this. And he says the point of diminishing returns is about 2 meters. So we decided for storage reasons to just chop it off at 2 meters.
That stuff's really cheap too.
Yeah, I mean, probably the brass thing costs as much as the.
Right, so our next
Oh, yeah.
Next person is going to talk about a cell phone app, which could be a tablet app, which could be a computer app, so you can play on the computers, anything with a web browser.
Can I use?
And while he's walking up there, I might also mention about the meeting words we talked earlier. You can put a link to that on the web page. So you can set up a document, put a link, and the kids click on a link to get there. I didn't mention that.
You just meeting words.
It's called meetingwords.com.
Can I ask one more question about the pipe? Is that schedule 40 or 200 PSI or what size pipe is that? You know,
Absolutely no idea, but I don't think there's any chance of it imploding.
No,
I mean, if
I'm
anything,
Schedule
it'll turn
40.
to Mylar.
Is it
just
schedule 40?
shoot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever's least expensive.
So one of the things I wanted to share was something that a coworker at school and I have been playing with. It's called Socrative. We got this as a email from our technology people. Basically, it's a student response system that's based on web-based. So anyone who has a cell phone, tablet, can simply use it. Parkway has kind of sort of embraced the fact that these kids are going to have cell phones everywhere. And so we have a bring your own device policy where as you can bring anything you want. Obviously, there's no liability and all of that stuff figured out. And then you can just log into the system so that you can still be watched as far as what you're doing. And then each individual teacher has their own guidelines for what is and is not allowed in the classroom. And so this is kind of sort of a fun way. We have Scintio clickers. You can't really type responses with them. Plus kids really tend to enjoy using their cell phone because they think it's cool. So anyways, you can create your own account by going up, sign up right here. And when you sign up, it's very easy. You just put an email, a password, you create an account. They'll send you an email to make sure it works. And then after you do that, you just simply log in. And so what I would do is I use this once. And there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do this. And so once you do this, you are assigned a room number. I found that at first, I let them generally create some random room number for me, but then I realized, well, okay, if I have something that I can remember, it actually shares with you. So I used an old phone number that I had way back in school, and that way I have it by head still, and so it's easy for me to constantly tell people what it is. And so if anyone has a smart device, whether it's an iPhone, anything, if you would go to a website, it's m.socrative.com. So just, you don't need the www, and if you want to do that for me,
You can also use your computers.
you can use your computers as well.
But the
That's true.
smartphone might be more.
Right. So it's m.socrative.com, and then it's going to say join a room, and my room number is 863-3427.
You have to put //student, I think. m.socrative.com/student, at least mine says that.
Okay. For me, if someone logs into the cell phone, it automatically redirects you to that page. But either way, it's fine.
Okay.
And so it looks like I've got one student in the room.
Do we need to have an account before we?
No, yeah, that's a nice thing. You do not need an account or anything. It just automatically allows you to join.
And should it be saying?
It's
wait for teacher to
863
start activity?
Right here.
3427.
Right there on the wall.
Yeah.
Could you write it on the?
Absolutely. Now, if I can write it in a way that you can read it, that's a whole other story.
Can you just put it in Roman numerals, please?
No dash.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Slash, backslash.
863-3427.
Yeah, you're right.
I got 863 and then the 300.
Oh, it automatically does.
Question?
Yes.
On the iPhone, there are two, student clicker Socrative and teacher clicker.
You want student?
Student for now.
No,
because you hit
log out.
Let's try again.
Already logged in. So you can probably just. Yeah, right, Scotland's right there.
And it probably says something like waiting for, right? And so I've got a wide variety of options right here, and I'm going to choose the simplest short answer. And so I'm going to click on this. The way I use this is, for example, we were just doing, we teach a semester at CAM, a semester of physics, at Parkway Central, and so I was just doing the classic, it's the equivalent of BB in a tube. We have fancy air bubbles now that we use. And so we're talking about experimental design. And so the way that both my coworker and I did this is one of the whole basis of inquiry-based design is trying to set up what this is. And so got my kids in groups of 3 and 4, and I asked them, okay, what you need to do is you need to design an experiment. And so I told them, what you guys need to do is you need to design an experiment for this, and then I want you guys to type your response in. And so they all got in groups of 4, and they talked about how they were going to set it up with the independent variable, the dependent variable, so on and so forth, and they typed a quick response. And then as you do it, you send it in, and then they all end up showing up here. And then there's a button here I can click on that says vote on responses, and so then all of a sudden I can allow kids to vote, kind of sort of that interactive thing. Is it any different than necessarily going up there and saying, okay, put this on a whiteboard and now let's share? No. But do they get to use their cell phones? Yes. Did that make them happy? Yes. So, I mean, it's kind of sort of integrating technology. I've got freshmen who are easily entertained. And so when you have 90-minute classes, sometimes giving them the ability to do that as opposed to whiteboarding is just something that's a little bit different. So why don't we go ahead, and if you feel you just want to type in some sort of random response, whatever.
What's the question?
And so for this single click one, they don't actually post the question, but so then I would have the question on the board. And so we need a question. Anyone have any great insight that they want to ask?
What the address of the Gladstone High School?
What?
Address of Gladstone High School.
What's the address of?
Right. So that would be one way. Or something more open-ended is. I'm running out of space. Breakfast, food. So go ahead, type in your short answers, and then after we get our collection, we can go ahead and vote on best breakfast food.
Thanks.
I already responded. You wanted a random response.
Oh, bacon.
So I typed a random response.
Awesome.
Does that mean I can't type anything else?
Yes, I believe it locks you out.
Okay, all right.
And so I do have background, and the thing here I can say is, just in case, for example, random response, something inappropriate, I can make it go away. I tend to freeze projectors a lot, so that they're slightly behind, and so that I have a chance to check and make sure everything is A-okay. I also do remind them that when you write something in the internet, it's there forever, and...
There's someone there who can't make up their mind.
Right. And so we've got 16 out of 22 responses. This is telling me how many people are logged in and what their responses are. For this kind of thing, it will not necessarily require you to log in. And so if at any point in time I can say, okay, that's enough, so let's vote on responses. And so now all of a sudden you have all of these choices, and they should all show up on your screen, I believe. And then you just simply make your vote. Something that's interactive.
Wait, you put all these in? Did you put all these in?
That's what people put.
No, this is what you guys put in yourselves.
Yeah, but why do you have to, it says, choose one of the below answers?
Right, so after you selected it, I said, okay, let's vote on it. And so there was a thing down here that said, okay, let's vote on the best response. And so I clicked on that button,
I see.
and so now the kids are interacting with each other and voting on what each other is writing.
Okay.
And so the way this worked out is I got 4 different ideas, and everyone was like, they tended to use the idea, and so then we voted on what was the best way to do this experiment, with a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a lot of bit of pushing in the right direction by me.
How difficult is it for you to transition away from them using their device to them not using their device?
I have a, if I see it and you can't have it, it's mine policy. And so that's kind of sort of fun the first few days, because I end up with stacks of cell phones because they don't understand that having your phone like this is okay. Because they think, oh, well, it's not, I can't even see it. I just want to be able to know. I go, it's mine. And so I take it right away. The assistant principal and I are on a very good basis because I see him on a regular basis with all my kids, just as far as, and so I give it to them, and we have a policy of you turn them in, and they get, I think, first time they give it back, second time they call, I don't know
Right,
what it
okay,
is.
all right.
And so, at the beginning of the year, I was just dumping them with them. I don't have a problem with it at all. So,
Except for you have to put the name and take it down to the.
you got to take name, it's my excuse for walking, which is I try to do it. But at the same time, now I'm at the point in time where I have a couple kids who have trouble with it. And I literally have a drawer in my room that says 4 cell phones, and I've got a couple students who are not allowed to walk into my classroom without taking their cell phone and put it in the drawer. And so I don't even mess with it again. And typically during parent-teacher conferences, I go, I just want you to know this is what I've been doing, so on and so forth, and the parents are all on board. Even though they then proceed to, it's amazing how many parents actually do text their kids during the middle of class. I mean, it's mind-blowing, but yes.
Do you give them a receipt, or?
For the cell phone?
Yeah.
No.
What if you got 50 cell phones in a bucket?
That's why I said you have.
I put names on
Name
it.
on it.
And so, I mean, I have sticky notes, yes.
What do you do when kids don't have cell phones?
What I do with, so, for me, everything I'm doing is in groups of 3 or 4. And I'm at Parkway Central, and so there's one of the 4 always has a cell phone. There's also, you can log in via computer. And so I've got 12 desktop computers in my room, which works as well. But I haven't had that problem yet. But no, you definitely need some sort of that, or some sort of tablet or something.
Getting back to the discussion a minute ago, if I want to share, I have in my room, I have a cell phone, I call it the cell phone garage. It's just a shoebox. I never touch the cell phones because I'm always worried about liability and stuff like that. So I put them in there, and then at the end of the day, I'll take them down to the principal's office. Here you go. And I never touch them.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah, and that's what I was saying, is I have a couple kids who have the tendency, and I literally have a drawer that's self a drawer. I open it up, they put it in at the beginning of class, I open it up at the end, they take it out, and that's what it is. Yes?
Can you put individual students' names in this program? Do you know that?
Okay, so what you can do.
So did we get the final vote on this? I didn't see that.
Oh, I think I just screwed it up.
Oh.
And yeah, I lost it. So no, we didn't have the final part. I think Snickerdoodle was the winner though. Okay, inactivity. Okay, so one thing you can do is you can also do a exit ticket. And so go ahead and complete exit ticket. Where did it go? Now is this a blank activity?
We got question 1 of 4.
Your last name, comma, first name.
Oh yeah. And so the answer to that question is, and I think it's set up. The names are not put in. Let me rephrase that. It does not know your device based on who you are. So in order to do this, if you wanted to do it the quiz, the first question needs to be, what is your name? It sends it as a very nice report. So if you separate last name and first name, it gives it to you on an Excel sheet, so then you can sort it based on the last name so that you have everything in responses in alphabetical order. You can design, and so if you're doing something like a quiz, which is absolutely an option, then you just need to be careful and mindful of the fact that it doesn't know what your name are. So your first question needs to be, what is your name? You can have both multiple choice questions for true, false questions, open-ended questions, and so it's a wide variety. I have never used it as a quiz device. We have Centio clickers that I like and I can use quickly. The problem with those Centio clickers is a classroom set of 30 is, I think, 2,600. It's something absurd. And so not everyone has $2,700 laying around to use. So
we're going to complete our exit ticket so we see what it looks like?
yeah. So then it just simply tells you how many people logged in and what the exit ticket is.
So one of the things that asked for was solve the problem on the board, so that's a good way to get a closure in a class.
Absolutely.
I absolutely cannot manage.
So so exit tickets, and so for these, they tend to be very, it's a very generic. Notice how none of them have questions. So for the most part, you have to put the question on the board. The other alternative is you can create, and I'm going to end this activity as well, sorry. And notice how when you said exit, you can email a report, and so you just email it to yourself. And so it sends it to you, and you get all the responses. And if you
Can we
want
see it if you download it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
So now it just automatically sends a detailed report to me, and
I noticed on my cell phone too, it also, it shut me off somehow, but it also asked if I could share it with another student. So more than one student could use the same cell phone to do that.
right. And so if I
Or
come
stay
here,
computer in the back of the room.
Yeah.
what happened to, there it is. No, hasn't sent it yet.
Not there yet.
Okay.
Has to go through 14 filters.
I'm absolutely done. Yep. Yep, I'm teaching next year the biotechnical engineering class.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. And don't have it, sorry guys. But so it will email it straight, or the other option is to just download it so you have it right then and there.
And you said it emails you a CSV file, or?
Yeah, in Excel. Yeah, it's a file that you can then very easily quick and sort.
Okay.
But the other alternative is you can create a pre-made quiz. We can hear mass quizzes. You created a quiz, and so you create a quiz, and here you go, however you want to do it, and multiple choice, sure. But the first question I need to change, I'm sorry. The first question needs to be short answer, and the first question is last name. And then you do another one. First name or choice. Who is the best team in Missouri? And then you save it, and so now I can absolutely log it in. Oh, I need to name of the quiz.
Can you import questions or anything? You gotta just type everything.
For mine, you gotta type everything in, but you can cut and paste.
Can you have graphics in there perchance?
No, not that I'm aware of. So, I mean, as far as the liability, using it is small, but I'll tell you one thing that I found is a whole lot of even with the Centios, when my kids need something, they've got to see it, because a lot of them have a hard time transferring from their smart devices onto it. Whether it be, even the computer, I know a lot of people are going to all paperless. I have a teacher who's his goal is to be 100% paperless in the classroom. And so, but for me, with my freshmen, they need to see something hard copied. And so even when I give quizzes on the Centio, I will have a copy of the quiz just so that they have it. And then I ask them not to write on it, but some of them I make sure that they know that they can write on it, just kind of sort of based on their individual students. And then they just go in and fill out the answers. And so it's definitely not something that's going to completely replace paper, but it's kind of sort of making grading and easy assessments quicker, especially when you're just trying to get a pulse of the classroom. Yes?
So could you tell me, what do the kids see when they use, so you're talking about the Centios, those are the
Right.
clickers?
Okay. So the Centio clicker, all they're saying is question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they just type in the answers. For these, if you create your quiz, they're going to see the individual quiz question up there, and they're going to type in the correct answer. But as far as like Rex's question about graphics and whatnot, that's not necessarily something you can import. But then for me, if I was to do a quiz via this, they would have a piece of paper that would have all the graphics or the graphs or whatever they needed. So it's more of a supplemental tool than replacing everything. But it makes data analysis very, very nice as far as sorting big questions, and you can just see kind of sort of where everyone's going. It minimizes grading. Especially, we do a lot of, with my older kids, what we call target checks, which is basically quiz that are not worth any points, just to kind of sort of get the pulse of the classroom and for us to have more data that we don't know what to do with. But that's another story. Questions? All right.
All right, it's now time to transition to the star of the show, which is Gene Gladstone, who is from Clayton High School, who is our technology specialist. Does anybody need to go to the bathroom now? This might be a good time for a break.
From star that show to the bathroom, that's kind of.
So let's just say the restrooms are out here, if you need one, out in the main hall, so if you need to take a break.
Take a break, I'm good.
Want to take 5 and come back?
Take a second, set up.
Okay. So take 5, get a donut, come back, and then I'll give you the proper introduction.
I think you about nailed it.
Which way did you say the bathrooms were?
Right out in the hallway.
Down that way.
And start looking.
Straight down the hall to your left.
Gene? Sir. I'm going to show you an email address, or a web address here. I can like this email address.
What does she do now? She's retired. Enjoying life.
She makes you work.
No, she's telling me you can join me. You can join me. If there's anybody here from Kirkwood, Jimmy Samalka is the person that leads, and he's from there.
It's 40 gallon, the Magnum load.
You're assigned a room.
Modeling, and they kind of have reverse course and kind of way to freshmen, so that.
Principal ran over to my classroom and said, hey, come see this. Luckily, I had a big physics course at that time. We all went over and started talking about mirrors. It's beautiful. So I've had one lab group studying for an independent lab, and they put a microscope.
I'll take the.
So they did the building out. We'll take it. What a fantastic
The only thing is, you just gotta remember, when you're making your food.
No, I'll try not to smash it into every door.
I didn't realize that the school was so big.
You're not trying to throw
I never realized it was so big.
a bucket of soil.
I always thought that you walk up to like pretty small because the
And one thing that I,
just see
I haven't done is,
Yeah, it's,
you could run that, or no?
Alright.
And so then, as long as it's running around, then they go home and turn it to
but now we've got. Step is to like crunch again.
I wonder if you can rock them.
They're getting central air conditions.
Why do they have the, I mean, it's pretty new building, but why do they have the blackboards rather than whiteboards? Any reason for this? Or?
Oh, Mr. Wojak, this is his room, and he's 72 years old, and I'm over there.
I was wondering, those are pretty good chalkboards.
We got the nice kind, they're magnetic cell phones. The contrast is great, and the chalk is cheap. What else do you need?
Right.
They erase fast too.
right, well, then we're talking about, that's what the Centio is. They're basically devices
We paid extra for it.
It's working smart.
I don't have my students.
you can use it to student response quickers, I think. And so you can use those, and
And I've got,
now, the ones we have actually well, you only like numbers for letter choices.
I guess
We get right up to the ones in the right way that they connect.
so. Does it work like as a focal patch, or can you go there?
I don't know. I haven't tried that yet. We need a drive. Yeah, we have to get a drive together.
Not really.
So how long would I need?
Now, and that includes like the wireless.
Really tall, though, it was quite
But it's just,
it has about like 10 meters, and you have to wait like over 2 minutes or so.
Come with me.
I mean,
So,
still not any different than, so, but it's as far as seeing it, you know.
Same exact.
Alcohol? Catholic is in Boba. Let me rephrase it.
So Valerie, is yours one of the?
Parkway is going to a, so, there may be.
That's what I thought. You never know.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm just no good at saying no. And actually, God bless them, it's a great school. I just don't want to write another report as long as I live.
I don't blame you.
So I don't know what to do with myself. So I leave the option of whether I go back to the community college or open. I don't know whether they'll help me, but I think I'll just look at that. See what will help me. Yeah, I'm done. I'm up at 75. I'm tired of not getting sleep. It's not happening. Part of this is I just don't understand how to say no. So I need to be in an environment where I don't have to they're all and I actually don't know whether I can. I don't know whether I can manage my time. I'm not a hobby person.
Absolutely. So,
My life is I'm not that many years. My brain is slowly turning towards my should I do it while I still do it?
it'd be a nice problem with the state of the district.
Yeah, I think you've got to figure that out though, man. Occupying some of them.
I agree with that, but I think I don't have to go exactly. She's always, I admire her always, because she's always going to manage her time. So, and I don't think that I'm that quick.
What I do is I run out.
I'm just on project. Well, I am project, I just don't have it. It's different when you're changing all of your part-time jobs. I mean, I remember my panic I was when I first left. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Well, slowly for a while. You're required to middle and upper. I mean, there is everybody does middle. Yeah, and I thought that would be and instead I enjoyed the drama. I don't even know where that came from. One of the things they told me that they're just scary. I mean, I have literally just walked in the room and they just, yes, we are. And I don't get it, but I've noticed pretty much that the ex-public school teachers that are there, don't seem to have it right. I guess maybe there's just not a lot of kindness in their eyes, I don't know. But I think they're adorable, and actually we end up having a pretty good time. And because I'm very motivated to be totally activity, the kids, they do all. Seventh grade level. And that's kind of how Jerry works. I just think that you're kidding me. I don't know anything about this. And they are actually right now changing. Whoever takes my job probably is using they are
Nothing being posted, nothing like
What are they going to do in ninth grade?
Ninth grade is my last grade.
Oh, sorry.
It is not like they're going to take away the physics curriculum, it's just they're supported. Yes, and the second half of eighth grade is the chemistry one. Where they actually do the initial fill.
I would say,
Get rid of. It's not about physics. There is no mile line education curriculum, and it's a great because that's what we're talking about. I closely really, in my opinion, doing I'm leaving.
yeah, right. And then we have,
Wayne's there, Wayne's young.
that talks to my smart board on my desk. I'll run that activity, talk to Denny
step back.
Everything on the phone. So I'll run it on my desktop, and then I'll have
I don't know, there's freedom and then there's this sense of, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I told my daughter at least I'll go wash dishes. My daughter said, come anytime.
Teaching farm chemistry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not very much what it is.
It's funny walking in there because there are still people I know. Like when you think about how many years ago.
Part of it though is that we have some sort of we're very much into.
I know, that's what Jessica told me. And I remember when he came in, oh my
So
God.
that way I'm keeping it, so the way I analyze data is pretty much.
And then they start talking about things like that. Got nutrition. Those are my language and stuff.
Right. Oh, right.
Get to eat again, get on all my feet.
So, some people
It's not full I am mostly watercolor. On the other
So
hand,
the
I
question
like
of
to go
what
back.
is your name has to be the first question that we would. Yeah.
I flat.
That first question, oh, where do you
So I actually spend a lot of time just drawing because it's amazing how I can say, oh yeah, you need that angle.
I'm so it's really isn't quick. Especially with what I found is
Never had it, never took an art class at all. Never had it in high school.
that's really defining what it is.
It's one of those things where I totally missed out just 2 years of children. Why you say
my first art class was before I got so it's definitely, but then I also have the honors, English, honors.
I mean, it's 75%. I lose your edge. I'm retired, step down, I've lost my edge. I just don't have that ability to be up and back, to work, to efficiently get things done. You know, come home, and still work efficiently.
About really,
Perhaps if I think I was fairly efficient. Let me put it this way, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep every night. And I'm against that, by the way.
I have not used, I have not used some of
So,
that.
I don't know if you're gonna, she's off, travel.
Part of the thing also is,
And I'm aggressive body, I was
the thing is, you realize the honors in this area. And so you can leave Now, I have computers that I can monitor exactly what those instructions do, it's hard to monitor to get a good one. So that definitely is a big downside. That's why I use it for
No, I had
just checking the and so you can work great with all the ways. The other nice thing is you can set up and run it at home. And they say, kids, okay, you're home tonight, go home, take the quiz. And so then they go and log in and do it at home.
I'm gonna take some suggestions. Yeah, and I like looking at someone's garage. Not that I want to tune it, I just want to go. How are you doing?
So you got we have a couple of announcement type things before Gene begins.
Folks, hi, listen up. Sorry to bug you. I just wanted to say I'm Bob Brazel. If you haven't met me, I'm the president-elect of the St. Louis area physics teachers, and so I'm just already starting to think about the May meeting, which is where we start planning out next year's agenda. So if you guys have any ideas about what kind of things you want to see, what kind of activities, what kind of lessons, what kind of workshops, let me know. I don't think I brought my business cards, but I'm at Rockwood Summit, and if you want to talk to me afterwards or whatever, just shoot me some ideas. That'd be great. I'd love to start collecting them so we know what we're doing in May.
Did you say you're having everybody over at your house now?
Sure, yeah, we can, I guess last couple of years, we've ended up over at my house at the meeting because I've got a user-friendly house for large groups.
Right.
So, by all means, come, we'll have lunch.
Usually have shrimp cocktail and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And David?
David Schuster, again from Webster, and I'm organizing and have started that program last year, the continuation of the great St. Louis area physics teachers physics contest in April. And so our date this year, it'll be hosted at WashU again, April 27th being the last Saturday in April. And I'd love it if you could bring your students. We have a sign up and it's all linked to through the SLAPT website. So that's the date, Saturday morning. Hope that all of us can be there and have a great time for our kids. I usually tie it into either extra credit or the possibility of an H grade kind of honors if there's excellent performance on the test.
In case you're not familiar with it, there are two levels. There's a mechanics only test and then a more comprehensive secondary P level sort of test. I'm assuming they're still doing that.
That's right, something for everyone.
So, now Gene, and it's yours till the end. Yeah. So we're going to be done by at least 3. So anyway, Gene is our technology specialist. He's I'll just say a word about it. It's just fun to work with Gene. He always has ideas. And he's a yeah, we can do that kind of mentality. So that's who you're listening to.
Yeah, it's great to have ideas and no solutions. Welcome to Edge Tech. David, is this your classroom?
My classroom is right next door. This is Mr. Wojcik.
I feel like I'm about to be in an episode of Punk'd right. No. I'm waiting for the break where this balloon just goes bam and some sort of green gel comes.
Now, why are there balloons hanging everywhere?
I suppose he's doing a Coulomb law experiment. I think they charged them quite a bit and saw them separate. They could get 20 degrees, 30 degrees on those things. Wow. With a dead cat.
I've been in technology for the last 15 years. My teaching experience is as a math teacher over the course of 30 years, so there's obviously some overlap there. But really neat experience to be doing this at Clayton High School, and I'm glad Mike asked me to come out and talk a little bit about our Google application suite. Prior to today, how many of you had any experience with anything other than Gmail? Okay, so we've got a little bit going on here. Hopefully, this will be new or at least valuable information for you. The Google Apps Suite not only gives you email, but it gives you the opportunity to create documents, spreadsheets, forms, presentations, and drawings, all on a universal platform, cloud hosted, and all for free. So it's a great opportunity for students who may not have access to Microsoft Office or other products to have a free online platform that is universally shareable and something that kids find to be really beneficial and really fast now. If you haven't created a Google account already, we can go ahead and do so now. You can go to Google and just create a Gmail account. I think Mike had asked that everybody do that, so we'll get into the one hurdle that you have to get over when using the Google Apps Suite. You have to do a little rationalization and give into the dark side of technology. There is really no free lunch, and if you're using the Google Apps suite, they're getting something on the back end. And the back end is yours, mine, our online behavior. So they track that behavior, they try and market to advertisers, and most of you are familiar with that process. So as we tell kids, we're going to use Google applications, we're going to use Google Docs, Google Forms, I think it's only fair to tell them too, hey, remember, although people are not being tracked locally, they are being observed globally. Our behavior is being observed globally. So the online behavior you exhibit is the reason that Google provides this stuff to you for free. And I think it's important that kids understand there is a yin and yang to this whole online cloud-hosted process. My observation with students and even young professionals right now is there's great disappointment if Wi-Fi isn't free and readily available, and if applications are not available free and online. I see that that expectation, that's going to continue to grow. But what we need to make sure to people is that, again, the free lunch concept really does exist. Google provides these services for free because they can tap into a gold mine of data.
Gene, your very comment just now sort of implies that a kid can say, hey, I don't like the idea of that, and if that's so, if they don't sign up, doesn't that sort of the whole house of cards fall? I mean, because you have a few students who don't want to use it.
Sure, but if we're providing the resource for them, then it's just like using a book. I may not agree with the content that is contained in this book, but as part of the course, we provide them this book. The expectation is that they'll use it. They don't have to use it outside the classroom. They can use the tools we provide, the resources we provide in the classroom. So
Unless it's
I think
Missouri.
I'm sorry?
Unless you're in Missouri and it's against your religion.
Yeah, well, you know. You are indeed true, although I don't think we've gone as far as Kansas has with the adjustments of their science curriculum, although they've come back a little bit. I understand it. So if you're in Gmail right now as an individual user, but the place we want to go right now is to Google Drive, and you'll see that listed in the top toolbar. So if you would, go ahead and navigate to Drive right now. Before I get going too far, Mike pointed this out to me. He was doing a little bit of investigation on ed tech and the use of assessment in technology, and he came upon this website, and interestingly, 2 of the 3 items that they listed for online assessment are items that have been talked about today, Socrative and Google Forms.
The third one you might mention too is kind of like the meeting words, and it's called Wall Wisher, which is like little post-it notes on walls that you can respond to. So you can play with that later. So while we're talking about things we didn't talk about, but we're talking about, how about your, what was the other one you said, Poll Everywhere?
Poll Everywhere would be considered a competitor of Socrative. It's another online polling opportunity where kids can use their cell phones or tablets in order to respond to assessments. So it's kind of a multiple choice opportunity that requires nothing on their part. So has everybody gotten to Drive?
Meet your drive.
Pardon me?
This is Meet Your Drive.
Meet your drive.
And you can exit out of those. Once we're in Drive, you'll see a number of options here. This is my inbox. It's full. Yours probably isn't if you don't use this on a regular basis. But the things that are of note here would be this area is going to contain some of the work that you'll create today. The most important menu is on the left, and it's the one marked with the Create tab. And if you'll just click on that, you'll see a drop down here that gives us all the options of things we can create in right now. Is create a form, and we're going to use that form to take a survey. We're all going to take the survey and examine the results, and this will be the first of 3 components that we'll talk about today. We're going to talk about the survey application, how you can use surveys in your class in maybe a little bit more creative manner than you've thought about. The second component will be actual data gathering or creating data sets from live experiments that students can share. And finally, the third part we'll talk about will be assessment, creating tests, using forms and automatically grading them, and automatically sending the results to your students by email. So we're going to create a form right now. You'll just come down and click on form. You'll see an interface open up that asks you to do a couple of things. It asks you to select a template. I'm going to ask you to select the default template. That'll be a blank one.
And then we create what?
Sure. Let's go back to the Create tab, and then Form. And we're going to use default. You can see right here in the dialog box, let's create a title for that form. And we'll call it, let's call it Morning Survey. And click OK.
Gene, I got a question.
Sure.
Right now, I'm using my Google, this is all kind of new to me within the last week, but my Google account that's owned by my school. So what I see on my screen was different, like with that last page, is different than what we saw. Is that, it didn't look like I had choices of format. I don't know if that's available.
Oh, okay. So those
Is that
templates weren't
okay?
available. Yeah.
When I got my email about having my Gmail account, I just found out last week that I have my SLU email, my personal email. My SLU email now is owned by SLU for Google. So they transferred, so my SLU, using my SLU email is owned by St. Louis University High School in Google. So is that, and I just noticed that last page is different, and I still redoing it.
Yeah, I think so. Mike, are you getting a...
I'm looking at this right now.
This is a previous page that choices of formats.
The other option would be to create an individual Gmail account separate from St. Louis University. And then you would have all the features that we're looking at up here. No, not at all. Question was... Yeah, question was, my screens look a little bit different than yours because our school is a Google Applications user, and schools can administer this application very tightly or very loosely. So they may have taken some options for themes in creating a form away from you to perhaps keep students at the school from creating a theme that they might find objectionable. So that's a realistic censoring component that a school might deploy. If you want to get around those things entirely, you can create your own private Gmail account and use this service in the same way we're describing it here. As you can see, I'm on our Clayton hosted Gmail apps, but you can also have a private Gmail app and do the exact same thing we're doing now. And what we've seen twice is with a little bit more freedom, apparently. So we're on this screen. I've titled this survey Morning Survey. I can change the title up here if I wish. I'm going to go ahead and leave it Morning Survey. And then we have some parameters. We're going to look at a number of different options here because there are a lot of question types we can create as a survey. But what you'll find is in this description box, it's useful to give your kids a clue as to what they're doing. So that's what we're trying to do this morning. And we're going to come up with a question. And you can see right here under question type, we have a number of options. Text, paragraph text, and all the way down to scale and grid, which we'll get a look at here in a moment. The difference between text and paragraph text. Text is like a tweet. It's got 140 character max on it. So you just need a short answer from the student. You might want to put that little text box in because it reduces size in the overall document. If you're asking for a paragraph explanation, then you would use the paragraph text. We're going to choose multiple choice for this first quiz, or for this first question. And we'll title the question, what was for breakfast this morning? We can put a descriptor down here beneath that question that might say food only, so if you drank your breakfast this morning, we'll leave that out. Now we'll make some choices.
That's just fine. What was for breakfast was up there?
Everybody with me so far?
On the question title.
And you can create your own choices here and just follow along with me. I'm going to create 3. We'll say eggs, donuts, and bacon. So I'm done with that question. I click the word done. And here's what it looks like then when my students will see this survey, or when my parents will see this survey, when I send it to them for class eval or whatever we're going to do with it. This is what they'll see. Visualize the uses for this, if you will. This could be a student attendance sheet. This could be a request from parents to sign up for activities. This could be a form to your family to see who's coming to the family reunion. So there are a lot of applications to any kind of form that we would use. But we're not finished. We have a number of question types we want to take a look at. So let's look at add an item, because we want to add another question to this form. And the next one we're going to add, between text and paragraph text, it's almost the same thing. So I'm going to make this question paragraph text. And we'll say, how do you feel this morning? And maybe a little bit of descriptor text that says keep it clean. And you can see there's a text box below that question that will allow the respondents to answer within the box in paragraph form. I have yet to find a limit on how much text you can put in there. I haven't really tried to push it, but it's pretty substantial. So now you see what our second question looks like. We're not finished. There are more types. Yeah.
So I'm thinking ahead to the responses that you get back. Are you always recording, so people have to log on to answer this, or can you go anonymous?
No, you can absolutely go anonymous. And as a matter of fact, you can see up here at the very top, if we're using an enterprise solution like Clayton, or what school district you're from, third floor, if you have an enterprise edition of Google Apps, you can require that anybody who answers this question have to have 1, a Clayton ID, or 2, automatically collect their username. So those anonymous responses only occur anonymously if you choose for them to do so.
And if you don't, then it's quite possible you need to make question 1 be, what is your name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you want that info for that. So we're down here to question 3 now. So we're going to add another item. We haven't tried a checkbox, so let's do that. These are all food related. I'm not quite sure why this morning, but we're going to go check boxes. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock.
Gene, for some reason I can't add another item.
Interesting.
I think she's having the same problem too.
Is he done?
You know what? And did you click done, as I had indicated before? I wonder if that, in this application, if that ended the form and is going to ask you to publish it. And I think, yeah, I think, well, it's on there regardless, and I think what it's asking you to do is go ahead and send the form to us. We've had one where we dropped a connection. If, in the event that you lose a connection or something in this whole process, don't get too hung up on trying to create the exact same thing we're doing right now. We'll have an opportunity here in a minute to do it on our own.
Hey, Gene?
Yeah.
Generally, tests, these kind of electronic test boxes mean you can select more than one where the radio, you know, the open circle. So obviously you don't want to select more than one here, right?
What if you have two breakfasts? One is flat and the other one is good. I mean,
Here's the way to account for that. On a multiple choice question, you can only select one correct item. On checkboxes, grids, etc., you can select multiple items. So as you're designing an assessment, or you're designing a question where you only want one answer, just make it multiple choice, and that'll solve the problem.
Now, I've seen stuff on YouTube about how to create massive spreadsheets in order to grade it for you. Is that pretty much only, as far as like self-grading and whatnot, is doing that? And is there...
The responses all go into a spreadsheet, and we're going to go over exactly how to grade them in 3 steps.
Okay.
Boom, 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 you don't have to know scripting or anything. It's
Awesome.
awesome. We're going to do a choose from a list real quick, and I think you guys get the idea here, so if this is boring for you, just bear with me for a couple seconds, and we'll be through it. If not, we're going to create a list, and you'll see what these all look like. Two interesting ones for science application are scale and grid.
What did you do, your list?
On the list,
What time is bed?
yeah, what time is bed, and then you'll see from that list, there'll be 3 choices. And we have a question about scale.
That'd be the way to hold to an answer.
How hard was it to get up this morning? And then we'll create the scale from, we're going to go from 1 to 3. 1 being hard, 3 being easy.
How well do you understand this past lesson? Is that kind of the idea?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then you could see how students' perception of their understanding correlates with their grade.
That's a great point, yeah. And that'll be really evident when we do some data gathering and kids are starting to work with experiments and stuff. So, as you can see, we're kind of making this lighthearted, but there could be some real substantive questions.
Okay.
Lastly, a grid.
Okay, yeah. That's cool.
What's your most productive day of the week? Row 1, we're going to say Monday. And then we're also going to give it a time. And I've hit all the examples of questions that we can create here. So as I scroll all the way to the end of my document, scroll up a bit. So I've created a 3x3 grid of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, morning, noon, and afternoon for most productive times. And I have an opportunity then to give my students a message, what they're going to see after they submit their form back to me. And I'm just going to say, thanks. Thanks, see you Monday. Right here, by default, the kids can submit a second response if they wish. I'm going to uncheck that. They can also be sent a link that will give them the results of the poll. Or they can be allowed to edit their responses after they've submitted. I don't want any of those things to happen right now, so I'm just going to send this form. And what you'll see now is this dialog box, and this is where we get to the real power of the Google application. So what we've done is create a form That's no big deal. It's a survey. We're going to send this survey to somebody. We can send it, for example, in an enterprise situation at Clayton High School, we can send it to the email group called Clayton Staff. Simply by typing Clayton Staff in the dialog box that says this form, send this form via email. If you've created groups of your students in your own personal email, you can send it to that group of students, or you can send individually by email address. Those are all options, as is the option of using the top dialog box link to share. Google has created a hyperlink. If I give this hyperlink to somebody, they can automatically take the survey. So I can post this hyperlink on a web page, I can email it to somebody, or I can show it to you right now and ask you to take the quiz. What I'm going to do is copy this link, because I'm going to want to paste it somewhere. The next dialog box asks me what I want to do with the results. I want to create a spreadsheet that'll house these results. So all I'll do,
How'd you get to that dialog box?
I click,
Did you, huh?
I click done.
Mine only has a send.
Do that, send.
Invalid email. Okay.
And then lastly, we're going to create a spreadsheet to store the results. That's done automatically. At the very top of this form on the toolbar, you can see where I'm hovering. It says view the live form. If you click on that dialog, you can see what the live form looks like. Yours will look pretty similar to this, I would guess. Success, no success? Can I have an amen?
Now, what was the bedtime? Was what type of question? What time is the bedtime? What type of question was it? Choose from the list?
Checkbox. Checkbox, thank you, yes. So you have to click right here to get the option. Now, I'm viewing this form, but let's envision for a minute that I'm not happy with the way it looks. I can always come back up here and edit this form again.
I assume I'm the only one who can edit the form, right?
That's correct.
You understand.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. I want you to be able to take the result, or take this poll, take this survey, fill out this form, take this quiz. In order to do that, I have to provide you access to what I've just created. You'll remember I copied that hyperlink, right? Well, rats, bear with me for a second. I'll go back and get it.
Well, you can share it on your Twitter page.
You can share it anywhere that's got a opportunity for kids to click or access. So you'll see this hyperlink. This is kind of obnoxious, isn't it? That's a long one. If I were to ask you to take this survey right now, I think it would be unreasonable to expect somebody to type in this hyperlink. So I had a solution for that. So we're going to kind of step away from Google Forms for a second. What I'm going to ask you to do on your computer is open up another browser window, go to Google, and type in the word bit.ly, B-I-T-L-Y. Anybody familiar with this site?
Yes.
And then click on the first choice there, bit.ly or bitmarks. What this site will allow you to do is take a very long hyperlink like the one we just saw and shorten it to a manageable one. So all we have to do is paste that link and then shorten it up. And you can see right here, this is the hyperlink now that will get me to the form I just created. So we'll copy that. Too fast? I'll go back. Bear with me just 1 second. We'll go back and repeat the process.
Great.
Google uses that on Google Maps automatically, you shorten
See,
it.
I always wondered how this worked.
I didn't know that. As long as.
All right, so let's go back.
It's just a link, you can click on it anyway.
That's true.
It doesn't make any difference.
I went back to my form and said, I want to send this form so I can get the address to which to send it. Here's the link, and I just clicked on it and copied it, and then went to the website bit.ly, bitly.com.
So when I Google this, I have like,
Just click on
just
it.
that one?
How long is that one
So I would,
I have not found that they expire.
Got
I'm
it.
guessing that they do at some point, but I haven't.
And then say shorten.
Fortunately for a form, you know,
Sweet.
it's probably not an indefinite response opportunity, so.
No, I agree with you there. It's doing that there must be the go-between, right?
Yeah,
I just wonder
right.
how long that's good for.
That's a great question. I have not found it anywhere.
Okay.
Now, if all they're doing is clicking on the link, it really doesn't matter how long it is, right?
Correct. But what I'm going to ask you to do right now on your device is, and actually I'm going to give you a better example than the one we just created. So we've created a hyperlink, right? We've got a quiz, we've got some responses that we're looking to see. What I would like you to do is either on your computer, in your internet browser, or better yet, if you're feeling kind of gutsy, use your phone.
That's kind of hard to read.
And-
Yeah, I can't
Is it?
read it. Yeah. Can you
I
highlight it?
believe.
Just
Yes.
highlight the text or something?
Whoops. Sorry about that.
Bit.ly links do not expire.
Thank you.
I learned that from the internet, so it must be true.
It must be true.
They are case sensitive, however.
Is that a forward,
between the
forward
Y
slash?
and the- or what is?
Is that a 1 or an L?
bit.ly.
Did you create it?
Should use forward slash, no?
It's not like somebody can.
Is that RIP or RLP?
RIP, rest in peace.
Is there a space between the U and R?
No,
There should be a forward slash after the Y, I think.
thank you.
Golly.
I'm in, it works.
Okay. Ideally, you would have a document in front of you that you can click on to access this. So that's http://bit.ly/13 URIPU. Give me a hands up if you're in yet. Okay. Go ahead and start taking that survey. It's a little different. I created this one previously. It's a little different than the one we just created together. That's okay.
I missed the very last thing you just said.
If you're to that survey, go ahead and take it.
Okay.
It's a little different than the one we just created.
Can you move it?
Oh, sorry.
I'm just still grabbing.
Is that RIPU or RLUP?
RIP.
Oh.
So it's case sensitive.
And it is case sensitive, yes.
Sure, the results are important.
We're changing the world with these results, right?
Because Google takes the data, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's actually why I'm absolutely not scared of anyone taking the data, because the number of it is going to be skewed anyway.
Have you seen that Outlook has started advertising about how evil Google is? Did anyone see those commercials?
Google?
What?
Google.
Yeah, Google.com or whatever.
Can I help anybody?
Google, so Outlook Express, Microsoft has started advertising about how evil Google is and how they use your results in order to sell you ads and stuff. And so they created a web page called Google.
Yes.
Wow.
There is one that unchecked the box that
Uh-huh.
has only
Right.
things only.
Correct.
So now, is this where we say?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally anonymous.
Anonymous, only just in case.
And if I had that box checked, you wouldn't be able to.
Unless it would be a close sign.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this?
There's an error.
Does anybody have Blackboard at their school and want to talk about it?
I think so.
I just talked to Seth, put down my tech contact on Wednesday, and we talked for about half an hour about how you do all this stuff with Blackboard. Which way should I go?
Blackboard, because you can import.
You can do a lot of different things.
Can I see a hand if you've completed this?
You don't.
Okay, one more minute, we're going to close this down and we'll talk about the results.
Well, I can show you mine.
See, we're switching to headline next year, which allows you to do a whole bunch of stuff as well. Are they? Which I'm kind of excited about. We'll see.
Once you're finished, close out of that survey and go back to your Google Drive. Remember, you signed up for Gmail, we went to your Gmail account, and then you clicked on the top toolbar with the word Drive. And you'll see something that looks like this. You'll probably have two things in there, the name of your form, and then some responses.
Doesn't mean not much. So, but this is my survey, I don't have results of your survey.
No, you don't, but I'm going to use this as an example. So what you'll see in that in that dialog box now is your survey, and it should say, what do we title that, morning survey? And that'll be indicated by the green box with a couple of stars and lines next to it. That's a symbol for a form. And you'll also see another item in that box, which looks like a spreadsheet because it is, and that'll say morning survey responses. Now, we didn't take your survey, we didn't take the morning survey. Which one did we just take?
Untitled form.
Saturday. We took the Saturday survey, some I had just made up before coming here. And now let's look at the Saturday responses. So what you did was respond to a survey or a form that I had created. The results are automatically sent to me, and all I have to do is click on the spreadsheet titled Saturday Survey Responses. So pretty clear. I have Saturday survey responses. When I click on that, again, this is all hosted online. Here are the responses I get in spreadsheet form, and let's go over this a little bit so you understand what you're looking at.
Now, I'm not quite sure how he did it, but I had a coworker who created a quiz with Google Docs and he shared it, I guess, in a folder somehow, and their responses was also mistakenly put in that same folder, and since that folder was public option, any student could therefore click on and see what all this other students wrote on in terms of what the quiz was, which obviously would be a big mistake. So how do we make sure that we're that?
Don't put that form in that folder.
But so.
Honestly, I can't.
When you create it, does it automatically put it into a folder?
No,
It just
it
keeps it right there on the
automatically does
desktop.
what you just saw.
So
It keeps it in your account, which is private to you and not shared. And the only way this document can be shared is if you share it in the upper right-hand corner, and that's an active process. So he had to mistakenly share the wrong document.
Okay.
There's no way you could create it while you're in a folder that's public and have it be shared? I don't know if that's possible or not.
I have not had that experience, but that would definitely be a significant error in sharing.
Right. And it would say also that you're about to share this and make it public for other people to view if you create something. I've created documents before that are in a shared folder, and it warns me, I think, that they're shared.
Yeah. And that kind of goes beyond the scope of just forms. But for our purposes, unless you actively do something to make this public to the kids who took the quiz, it's not going to happen. And I'll show you how to make those results public in a very secure way or a very precise way.
I see that folder, but it's empty. Is that what it's supposed to be? Why am I seeing that morning survey responses folder if I can't look at the responses?
So you haven't received any responses. That's the survey you created, and we have not published that to anybody yet. What are we looking at right here? We're looking at the responses to that survey we all just took. The timestamp just tells you when kids submitted it. If you tell guys to get it in within 15 minutes and they don't, you'll have a record of when it came in. If a student says, hey, Mr. Gladstone, I turned that in last night, it shows that he turned it in 5 minutes ago, you have verification. You can delete that column if you wish, but it can sometimes be valuable information. In row 1, you have the titles of all the questions that you created, and then the responses are contained in rows 2 from on down. So you can see how much snow was in your driveway this morning. Lots, none, I shoveled it. We can just kind of scroll through all the options here. If I choose, I can highlight a column scale. We weighed them, and after that we took the paper towels that were still left with the water, weighed that, subtracted the two, used the difference. Not exactly rocket science, but you know, for a dumb 9th grader, it's pretty cool.
Good thing I don't teach biology.
So, you get the MO here. We're controlling everything but water. We're going to try and find out if the water has an impact on the growth rate of the life cycle of a tadpole. So with that in mind, I developed a form for our students to use in class. And this is going to be a 10-week project. As a teacher, I'm going to gather data once a week. So that's a pain. I'm going to gather data once a week from 4 different groups of students, and I'm going to ask them to make an observation. At the end of that 10-week session, I don't want to have 40 different pieces of paper that I have to go through and analyze. This solves that problem for me, and here's an example of how. As a group of students, we do our first data measurements in week 1. I am the group that's using water from Creve Coeur Lake. The weight of my tadpole cluster at the end of week 1 is 15 grams. And I submit that data. A week later, I come back. I'm now in week 2. I'm still the same group. And now my tadpole cluster is 30 grams. So you get the idea here. All my students are doing at the end of each week is logging onto their form, submitting their data, and they're finished. I'm doing nothing to collect that data as a teacher.
So go get the one.
Yeah, well, all my kids can drive. All right, so you're with me on the idea there. At the end of 10 weeks, what does that look like for me? I was using the tadpole growth rate form to collect the data in my class. The kids could fill that data out anywhere, by the way, couldn't they? They wouldn't just have to do it in my class, they could do it in their car on their phone, if they remembered.
While driving.
Yeah.
To get the one.
With that phone.
So along with each form we create, we get a response sheet. The response sheet I have here, I filled out with made-up data. There's nothing valid or legitimate about this. I just made stuff up. But what you can see here is we have the group at Creve Coeur Lake and their 10-week measurements. Crystal Springs, Mountain Water, Forest Park, Grand Basin, and Gravois Creek somewhere in South County. So there's the data. This data is kind of meaningless right now, but it is in a spreadsheet, isn't it? So if we choose, like any spreadsheet, I did not just read that.
No, you're off to the right.
Thank you.
Scroll a little.
If I highlight this data, come over here to insert chart, I can select a chart that I like. This is just a chart type. I like columns. That's cool. So what we can see here is, this is the cluster from Creve Coeur Lake. The blue represents the time in weeks. The red represents the weight in grams. And we can now compare data without me ever having to touch a piece of paper or check to see if my students have done their entries.
So let's see it online, the line graph.
Yeah, it kind of gets ugly there. We've got weeks down here and weights up here, so that's not as cool.
You can do it as a scatter and then it'll.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, then
Oh, it's saying scatter won't work real cool. We'll probably have to adjust a little bit here, maybe,
Instead of a name for a lake, you give it a number or something.
yeah.
The weeks have been added to the masses, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's the-
You see this bubble graph. Has anybody watched any of the TED Talks where they use the motion graphs with expanding bubbles? And really, I think Wolfram Alpha was one of the contributors to that technology, and it's really vibrant. Google has a motion graph component to their spreadsheets that gives you a little bit of look of that. So you can see, for example, population changes over 100 years, where a bubble might start out like this, get bigger, smaller. It's really alive and vibrant. Google Spreadsheets has that graphing component. A little bit of a jump off the rails there, but it's pretty cool. So what's the point of this? The point of this is we can use Google Forms to gather data from students, gather personal data, gather contextual data. We can also use it as an experimental tool to supply us the information we need to reach conclusions. It's really easy for our students then to look at this and say, wow, our tadpoles won. We did it. We cheated, we got food on the slot. This becomes vibrant information, and those graphs can change if we continue to grow the tadpoles over 15 weeks instead of 10. Kids can just go back into that link, add to their data, and that data will be reflected here. All I have to do is go back in and refresh the spreadsheet. The graph refreshes itself and we're good to go. That, to me, is a pretty valuable tool for the classroom environment. We've got one more component here of Google Forms that I think you'll find really valuable. And
One
probably,
question about this one for you.
yeah, please.
Like Mike said, is there a possibility for a student that's doing another link to mess with another student's data? You know, as far as students go, they like to do that kind of thing.
Great point.
sometimes.
So a student could log in and fraudulently claim to be sampling water from one lake when he really wasn't, and could put in fraudulent data. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
So.
but this, Mike said there was a way to enforce it.
Well, this avoids what happens to me. It doesn't avoid what you're talking about. What happens to me is we're doing it in class and the kids have been messing around with each other, and we're all doing it at the same time. So it's a one-day experiment. So we got a spreadsheet, and they say, "Hi, Tim," you know, as part of a spreadsheet, things like that. So this would avoid that.
You know what, I just did think of a solution. The way we designed our form, that opportunity for fraud would exist. But if you recall at the very beginning of the conversation, because we were using a Clayton domain, I had a checkbox that said you have to sign in. And below that, there was another checkbox that said include login name. And if I checked that, then at least if somebody did commit fraud, we would know who it was. And the only way they could cheat that would be if they knew somebody else's credentials, which happens a lot too.
So when you say log in, that means they need to be using their claytonschools.net email
Yes.
address
Equally required.
when they do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because that just caused me a problem where I checked that, but a bunch of kids that were filling it in were doing it on whatever email they had. And then they said, well, I can't get in, whatever. So it's just not very many kids use that email address.
Yeah, and what you saw with me is I unchecked it right away. That's kind of my default position because I don't know about the kids at your schools, but the kids at our place don't want anything to do with anything that says claytonschools.net on the back of it. They feel like they're being spied upon, and
they are.
So that's why I try to make things as public as possible for them. And you know, especially as many kids who will use their phone to take something like this, just makes it more realistic. All right, so let's do something that makes your workload even lighter. I think the opportunity to make your workload lighter using this kind of data gathering tool really exists, and the front end investment, the building the form, really doesn't take much time at all, especially after you've done it once. You know, it's kind of like changing the tire, hard the first time, easier the second time.
Okay, so I understand using this from year to year, so how do you ditch last year's responses in favor of a new spreadsheet?
Just delete them.
That's it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep the form the same, but delete the responses and then get a new
So it's just a matter
file?
of checking the box next to responses and then come up with a delete this.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and they're all gone and you're good to go again.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let me catch up with myself here real quick. I'm going to give you an opportunity now to take a quiz. And it's just a random quiz that I've created. And you're going to find a couple of things that are different about this quiz. Oh, I guess I better fix this up. Let's write it in yellow. So you can navigate to that quiz, use your phone, use your computer.
You don't have permission to enter the things?
Same here.
Everybody's getting a permission to access?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'll bet. Just as we were talking about, what have I probably done in this situation? I've probably checked that, yeah.
It's okay, I know somebody's password.
And if you look right here in this, I think this is called the Saturday Wake Up Assessment. I required that login, so what can I do? Is the form invalid? Is everything screwed up? No, I don't think so. I think I can just do this and say okay.
Got it.
I'm gonna send the form. Now,
No, I'm in already. No, yeah, I just quick refresh.
They've got it? Great. That was cool and that was easy, huh?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I asked some really ridiculous questions so we can get a different population of answers and just kind of look at how valuable this is.
I haven't put in though.
All right, I'm writing Swell's name on it.
No, I
When I look really bad.
Okay.
Here's the key though, give an email address that you can access right here because that's how you're going to get your grade. So use an email address that you can access right here.
Why is that home? All right, I need you to touch my computer again. I need to check, I just, that's correct. Hang on.
Is that when it just sits there, you type the thing in and it just sits there? Yeah, that's what I got too. I guess not, I don't know.
You have to stop it. You're talking about just staying there?
Just saying you're doing nothing.
I refreshed it.
Okay, I chose LED, D, ABC, A, B, C, D.
Go ahead and close this.
Okay. You came up with the thing that said slash enter or alt type enter and it did, and I got
I
me.
know,
I just practiced that.
Yeah, alt and enter.
My problem is
it
my
got me to
operating
that.
system no longer keeps me secure on Firefox. Because I'm at 10.5.6. And I need to be at 10.6, but they won't pay for that site license.
How many people have finished?
We lost.
I just started randomly selecting things, but I had no idea.
I did D on everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it's like A, right, random.
Oh, I know, I got the first couple.
If you,
Yeah,
we'll
me
see if
too.
you created a really good quiz. Like a summary.
Both of you guys are going to.
I have no idea.
Okay, got it. No?
That sounded intellectual.
You can't stand to get it wrong, right?
I knew it politics.
Said, well, ship the results right in line.
Yeah, and I haven't done that yet.
I haven't watched
You
it.
have to watch
One of those lines.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
you
it's
should
not
think,
quite
it's
that
gonna-
refined
You're just gonna
yet.
be
But
like your old me
for
up
what it
there.
does,
in
you'll
front
see
of
the amount of work my
everyone.
I put your name on it, so.
I put my own.
Now, ideally, I would have shared this form with everybody in the room, and you would simply have a link to click on. You wouldn't have to type this address in. Why haven't I shared the form with you? Because I didn't know your email addresses prior to coming in. I could have created a document you could access or put it on a website, something of that nature. But this gives you an idea of the trials and tribulations. So the ideal method would be share this document with your student.
Oh,
It has a red star.
And again, would a student have to have their school
Here,
email
go in and
address?
write your
No.
name and stuff.
We could send it to
So you
Gmail,
know
Yahoo,
that students know how to
AT&T.
get to your website or whatever. You do all kinds of cool.
Can we move on and show you how to grade this? Okay. I'm going to close out of this. Where will I go to find these results?
It should be on your drive, right?
Wake up response.
I go back to my drive. The name of this quiz or this assessment was Saturday Wake Up Assessment. So this will be Saturday Wake Up Assessment responses. And as you can see, We've got a whole swarm of them right here. Anybody know where Einstein was born?
Oh, Germany.
Oh, yeah, news to me.
That is home?
If you look in this cell, when I made this assessment, I tend to call these things quizzes. They don't have to be. This could be a significant test, couldn't it? When I made this assessment last night, I took the assessment before anybody else. And the reason I took that assessment first was to establish the correct answers. And what you're going to see now when we begin to grade this is the spreadsheet will look for the response that dictates the correct answers. I like to do that first, so the very first row in my spreadsheet is the one with the correct answers. And we're going to talk about how to do that right now. So we're in our responses. This is nothing more than a spreadsheet. You could go down manually and grade all these and write it all down and give a piece of paper to each of your kids if you wanted. The other option is to grade it automatically, and to do that, I'm going to click on Insert and then Script, because the tool that will grade this for us is a script, a JavaScript that will run on the spreadsheet and kick all this information out in a heartbeat. So we're going to go Insert Script. I'm going to click on that now. And Google opens up a whole swarm of scripts that have been created by random people with nothing to do but cool stuff. And we're going to type in the word Flubaroo, F-L-U-B-A-R-O-O.
I like the way it's spelled too.
Yeah. So you have to know the script you're looking for. And in this case, it's Flubaroo.
I feel it's love.
Well, you know what? That's what I thought too until I watched the demo. And the demo guy from the company is pronouncing it Flubaroo. And I'm thinking, no, this is flub.
And where do I look for script?
Under Insert Script, and then in the search bar right here.
It's still on my drive, or where is it?
No, you should be in the responses. And actually, you don't have these responses,
Right.
only I do.
All right, fine.
Sorry about that. So now all I'm going to do is install this script. It takes a moment to run. It'll ask me if I want to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to stop it right now because I already have this script installed. So once that runs, yep, I want to do it, I can come up here to the Flubaroo dialog and just click on it, Flubaroo dialog, and I want to regrade this assignment. Well, I've already graded it. I graded my own yesterday when I set up the grading scale, but here's what we're going to do. It's going to ask me a couple of things. First of all, you know I required your name and your email address, right? That's question 1 and 2 right here. And those were required, and it identifies student information. I've assigned a 1-point value to each of our questions. I could change that and assign a multi-point value, or I could skip grading it if it was for non-graded information.
Why does it take so long? Come on.
Yeah. All right, this question is asking me which one do I want to be the answer key. And you recall that I said I answered first, so it'll always be at the top. I know those are correct. I could have answered last and done the same thing. I just have to scroll around to find it. It's just a standard practice.
Now, can you make it so that it grades, is it only going to grade multiple choice questions?
This is the key. Your tests need to be multiple choice, check box, any single answer option. If you include a text answer, the answer must match exactly the correct answer that you've designated. Not only the correct spelling, but space by word, capitalization has to be correct as well. So don't use text if you want to use text.
Now, what about numbers? I guess you could use if you wanted the answer to these numbers, you could do it as far as the text box is concerned, just tell them the number of decimal places or whatever.
Number 6
Sure.
You could,
The key there is-
grade part of it, and then have the text fill the
Sure.
spreadsheet opinion, so you can set up your answer sheet and grade certain questions, and then read the essay part like you do on a normal test anyway, if you're doing it by hand.
But they'd
But
all be
realize
right
even
there.
the word yes.
They'd all be right there.
If a kid hit a space and then typed yes, it would be marked incorrect. All right, so in that little bit of conversation, somewhere along the line, the grades happen. I want to view these grades right now. And as you look up and down,
Well, most of us won.
as far as we know, what's interesting is the program defines the validity of a question at 60% correct or more. So any question that's below 60% is highlighted in yellow or in orange, whatever that color is. So you can look right away at your quiz and say, well, I need to throw this whole damn thing out because it wasn't very well designed. So you get the idea there. The potential of this thing. Now, we're not finished yet, because I graded this. This is great for me. I can go down and
Wait a minute, Gene, you only got 66%.
It was a terrible test. I
had to get some wrong on purpose.
Well, it's not a test, right? I know, I should have been able to get 50.
Now,
We got it wrong also.
where'd let's go back. Actually, see where it says Homer right here? I did it 2 times, and if you'll notice, this is me on Gmail as opposed to ClaytonSchools.net. And in order to do a grade, like I said, I had run a grade last night to make sure it works. So I set up the test as Gene Gladstone, ClaytonSchools.net. I took the test as Homer from GeneGladstone@gmail.com, if that makes any sense. You'll notice it does not show the answer key here. It only shows the first response, Homer.
Notice how I got a 6. Notice how I got a 6.
Nobody on there got 100. How could that be if you're the key?
No, he took it twice.
Oh, that's not his key part, that was his, I'm going to be a student part.
So you see, you've got all the information now. And that grading process seemed like it may have taken a minute, but there's more to this than that. So if we come back up to Flubaroo, we can email the grades and view a report. So the first thing I'm going to do is view a report. And there you get the histogram of the grades. Okay, that's pretty cool. Average score, 4.08, 23 submissions. We're not going to count this class. But the most important feature here is emailing the grades. And this is what's just amazing. So we're going to use the email address of each of our students. I want to include a list of the questions and the scores. I also want to include the answer key and a message.
And you can also send out your group email if you have your group email set.
Yeah. And continue.
If you send the grades, does that send everybody's grade to every kid?
It should send your grade to you, and that's it. It does not send to every, now, watch it make me a liar.
Quiz about the syllabus. First quarter.
If you refresh your email, you should see that score with your answers and all the correct answers, and it should just be you. I have not had an experience where I've sent it to more than one. Isn't that just a great feature, though? I mean, you've got right there as a kid, you know, before you get out of class, what the grade on that quiz or test was. Or as a teacher, instantly done before I go home.
I would be hesitant to send it that day because somebody's going to be absent and want to take the quiz.
Yeah, great point. Yeah. Although, you know what's really cool about the quiz? You just brought up a great point. I hadn't thought about this before, but let's take a look at this. Don't send the information home to these guys because the quiz might be different. Okay, we can change it up a little bit. This isn't a perfect solution. But if I choose to edit this form, I can drag this question up to here, and all of a sudden I've changed the order of the quiz without having to do anything. So you can change it up a little bit. If they're sharing the questions and not the responses, it's a moot point.
But you sent the questions on the key.
Yeah.
Maybe,
But he doesn't have to, he can just send a grade.
Yeah, so a great point, don't do that.
maybe we could send the quizzes back 2 days before a test. Everybody gets all their quizzes back. Then they're in one place.
Yeah.
Handy.
Great strategy, but this, for me and for the teachers in our school, you've heard Mike talk about it a little bit. For the teachers in our school who use it, this has become just de facto. And this is how I do it. The Scantron use, the Scantron is housed in a room next to my office. The Scantron use has dropped way off because this replaces that. And you still, the only thing you have to do at this point is enter the data in your school management program and your school uses an online grading system.
Now, when are they taking this test? Can they take it, is this, you have to do it in class so that everybody's there and doing it, right? So
You
they can't
control
do
it. So yeah, if you want it to be a real graded assessment, then you would want it to happen in class. You make it available, kids can't alter their answers after it's submitted, and you can even close it out at the end of the class period. Or if it's a take-home quiz, you can leave it open all day long. It's like any take-home quiz, somebody else would do it for them. But if you require that login, you really have a little bit more.
Once they log in under the
Yeah.
other person, yeah.
Outside of cutting and pasting each question from an existing test, can you import a Word
No,
document?
That's one of the nasty flaws in this thing. It would be so cool, and as I get on the user forums, that's a big request, and I've got to believe that's coming down the road to import from a Word doc, but it's not available yet. Yeah.
There's a site called Schoology.com
Oh, yeah.
that I use, and you can import, you can export, I think, into, if you got a test creator or whatever, that will export into, I think it's Blackboard 7.0 or something. You can import that then that quiz into Schoology, and then they can take that assessment, and it does all the basically similar things that this does too.
Schoology is an awesome tool, and actually that was one of the things Mike and I had talked about. We considered presenting Schoology here as well. It's a free classroom management system, and that's for another day. But
and you can customize it so that only your students have access to that class. You can set up per class sort of thing, and so that they only have access to it. And so the whole world doesn't see it.
How do you close down the quiz again? Just so that it, you don't have access? And sorry, I'm sure you went over this.
no, I don't know that I did. So let's go to responses. Here we go, our review responses. There we go. Under responses, we should be able to delete all responses. No, change response. Unlink. Here we go, where it says accepting responses. If I uncheck that, then it's defaulted. We're no longer accepting responses.
I see, so once you collected it, you can...
Yeah, and again, that was under responses, and then you control what you do with them at that point.
Can you build something in that it will quit accepting responses at a certain time?
You know, Rex, I haven't seen that time component on it.
Always wanting more.
My experience.
I want graphics.
Well, and you know what? I haven't tried, there was a question earlier about putting a picture in this. I haven't tried to cut and paste the picture in there. I'm guessing no. I haven't tried that out. I think the most important thing they can do, from my perspective, is import from a Word doc.
How about a link? If you put a link in, and then you can have it linked to something like a PowerPoint or something.
I haven't tried it, that's a great question. I wonder, let's see.
Format which can.
So while the kids taking the test, they can just have two
How
about put them somewhere else.
It's not
Picture for number 9.
exporting it into that format.
Well,
Shoot.
Sounds like we need to have a day on Schoology. Got a day.
Yeah. So here's what I hope you will have gotten out of this today. We've got all this information, all this opportunity at the price of creating a Gmail account. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account that you actually use. If your school offers that for you, you've already got an opportunity to use it. If you're not familiar with Google Docs or Google Apps Suite itself, you're more familiar with it now. Specifically forms which you can use to gather data generically. You can use it to extend a classroom lesson. You can use it to grade assessments. And we also went over creating a graph with those assessments or that data, which I'm guessing most of you are pretty familiar with in physics and chemistry. And then lastly, bit.ly, don't forget that. If you ever come up with something that's got a huge hyperlink, use bit.ly to shorten it up, and it makes it real convenient.
I think maybe, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with just Google's format. You want to show us real quickly that
Sure.
folder organization,
Yeah.
just real fast? Like my drive versus shared with me, for example. Okay.
So what you'll notice here is I have a few folders on the left-hand side of my screen, but not many. I used to be a very meticulous folder person when we used Microsoft Outlook as an email organizing system, and that's kind of become less important to me because Google offers such crazy search features that it's faster for me to navigate to a document through the search window than it is to navigate through a folder structure. So you'll see I have a ton of documents in what you might consider an inbox, or in this case it's just the documents that I've created. So these are all documents you can see right here. I have the morning survey that we just created. I have the stuff that we've used today. You can scroll down and go all the way down to stuff that was back in December. I also have another component here called those items that have been shared with me. So these are things that other colleagues or students have shared that I didn't create, that don't belong to me, but that I still have access to and that I can contribute to. So you can see here lots of people have shared documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and these are all things that I can access that someone else has created and that I can collaborate with. So for example, if I were to choose to do so, all I would have to do is close this document out, and that comment would be stored and available for everybody else with whom the document is shared to see.